long to answer. Had she really mentioned the white magic stones and the sacred sword too early? She doubted that the crown prince understood her situation. If he turns her down now, then her whole plan will go down the drain. She has no choice. She will have to show the prince her ace up her sleeve. The girl rose from her seat and unbuttoned her cape. "I think you will understand if you see it for yourself," she said. The men, involuntarily watching the girl begin to undress, were outraged by what she was doing, because she was a noblewoman. But Adelia did not listen to them, but threw her long hair to the side, revealing her back. And what they saw horrified them. Large, ugly scars were visible on the fragile girl's back. "These scars were left by the people who call themselves my family," Adelia said quietly. The emperor and prince stared in shock at what the girl revealed to them. The longest scar was left by her stepmother when she was 7 years old at the age of 11. Her younger sister left a burn under the scar, out of pure interest. Lucian couldn't take his eyes off her back. Adelia talked a lot more about the atrocities of her family, but the men did not utter a word. "What are you trying to achieve with this? Do you want to arouse pity?" the emperor finally asked wearily. But that's not what the girl was trying to achieve. It seemed to her that they doubted her intentions because of what she offered in return. Lucian's marriage will not put him in a difficult position, but the girl's whim is very unexpected and not so easy to fulfill. Adelia only shows them how much she wants to achieve her goal. She wants to make the lives of these people hell on earth. The girl's voice gained strength in anticipation of revenge. They will suffer 2-3 times more than she did when they mocked her. But then the prince interrupted her passionate speech. The crown prince rose sharply from his seat, which greatly surprised the girl. Then the man's hand reached out to the girl. Putting a cape on her shoulders, Lucian replied that she had proven her words and could stop. Adelia looked up at the man in surprise. Did he really feel sorry for her? Or she reminded him of Princess Ariana because he is very kind to her. Then, turning to the emperor, he said that if she signs the contract, then he himself sees no reason for refusal. "Do as you please," replied the emperor, raising his glass. Several hours passed, during which they discussed all the points of the contract, and Adelia asked permission to settle in the palace as soon as possible. Lucian promised to send the carriage with the knight to Vita's estate tomorrow, and for now she will live in the guest quarters. The girl was surprised that everything would happen so soon, but she was also happy. The prince concluded that they would certify the contract legally and magically. It would be best to legalize the transaction to avoid problems in the future. Adelia bowed respectfully, realizing that the prince still did not trust her. One careless step and her plan would fail. "I will look forward to our wedding," the girl said coldly. She should not let her guard down. The next morning at Vita's estate, Lobelia burst into the room without knocking, raising her voice from the threshold. "What kind of trick did you pull yesterday?" the girl asked her sister hysterically. Adelia, who woke up from these screams, calmly noticed that she had no instructions, who taught her to break into other people's chambers in the morning and without knocking. But Lobelia roughly pushed the girl and continued to scream, demanding to immediately tell her what she had done. Such rubbish. Why the crown prince invited her to a personal meeting. Adelia was beginning to be annoyed by her sister's annoyingness. That is why she wants to get out of here as soon as possible. Can't Lobelia be silent for at least a day? "You're ignoring me. Answer immediately," Lobelia said hysterically, dissatisfied with the girl's silence. But Adelia was not going to answer her. Why would she? She demanded to stop screaming and get out of her room. Lobelia screamed as if she were crazy. How dare she talk to her like that? She is unhappy when Adelia is silent when she speaks. She also doesn't like what she wants from her. "Are you jealous of me?" she suddenly asked her sister, which put her into a stupor, and she stammered and asked what she had just said. The crown prince didn't even look at her, and Adelia danced with him and even talked in private. She was going crazy about this. After this, Lobelia literally shook with anger. Of course, she absolutely understands. Adelia smiled. Lobelia's health is better. Yes, and she is more beautiful and younger than Adelia, but the prince still chose her. "Cheap!" Lobelia shouted in rage and raised her hand, intending to hit her sister. But there was no blow. "What's going on here?" a stern male voice was heard. Dissatisfied with being interrupted, Lobelia Vita, her face twisted with anger, turned to the door. Right next to the door stood 5 imperial knights in white uniforms. Retracting her already raised hand, she nervously asked who the hell they were. And how dare they break into the estate? "My name is Dawn. I am the head of the Imperial Guard," said the chief, arrogantly looking down at the girl. "We arrived here on the orders of the Crown Prince." But what is more important now is that he asked her a question about what she had just done, and Lobelia was seriously scared. But Adelia answered his question and asked him not to worry. It was just a small quarrel between the sisters. She was glad that His Highness had sent her this night and asked him to turn away for a moment. After all, she was still in her night clothes. Don, as well as the guard standing behind him, instantly lowered his eyes and turned red, at the same time apologizing. In fact, Adelia noticed the distinctive mark on the head knight's chest. She didn't expect the prince to send the head of the Imperial Guard, even though he promised to send the carriage with the knight to the Vita estate the very next day. It's nice that the Crown Prince fulfills his promises so clearly. Don Creeder is the youngest head of the Imperial Guard in history, as well as the right hand of the Crown Prince, which makes him close to the Imperial family. And the fact that it was Don who was sent means that the prince is more favorable to her than Adelia expected. Throwing a robe over her nightgown, the girl turned and allowed the men to raise their heads. At the noise in her room, the entire Vita family appeared, interested in what was happening here. At this moment, the knights decided to pay their respects to Adelia, for which they all knelt before the girl at once. I, Don Creeder, head of the Imperial Guard, have come to escort Miss Adelia Vita by order of the Crown Prince, the man said formally. From now on, Lady Adelia is to be treated as the Crown Princess. These words impressed all members of the Vita family. Without exception, Lobelia almost burst with anger. The Count and Countess were shocked, and David was even interested. Looking at their reaction, the girl thought about her own thoughts. They have always considered her a non-entity, and now it is even difficult for them to admit that her position has become higher than theirs. How long, in their opinion, she should have remained a simple daughter of a count? But the girl answered out loud that she would immediately begin preparations for moving to the palace, and asked the guards to wait for her a little. Having bowed politely, Don asked the lady not to rush. Lobelia, frozen, thought that this could not happen, that this girl would become the Crown Princess. This was some kind of nightmare. She grabbed her sister sharply by the elbow. "Liar, these are all your inventions, right?" she screamed hysterically. "What does it all mean?" Adelia's gaze sharpened, and she pulled her hand out of her tenacious grip, telling her sister to be careful with her words. She is, after all, the daughter of a count, so let her behave accordingly. In addition, Lobelia should not forget that her words could affect the reputation of the entire family. They're sisters, of course, but doesn't she think she deserves a little respect as a princess? Adelia especially emphasized that last word. She stroked her sister, who was shaking with anger, on the cheek. "You wanted to know if I was lying?" the girl asked insinuatingly. Adelia leaned close to Lobelia's ear and whispered that, in fact, the Crown Prince did not choose her. "I chose him." From these words, Lobelia's eyes became the size of gold coins and her eyebrows flew up. "He will never even lay an eye on you. Don't even hope." His sister's tone greatly frightened Lobelia. After all, he was so similar to their father's tone, which made her truly scared. "Nonsense!" she shouted, pushing Adelia away. "You think I'll believe this nonsense? What right do you have to choose?" "Lobelia," the girl answered wearily, "didn't I just tell you to watch your words? Beautiful lips like yours should utter only pleasant words." Adelia's gaze sharpened. The guards also looked at the Crown Princess's sister with disdain, and Lobelia stopped short, realizing that she could be punished for this. She was forced to bow politely, and Adelia, pleased with the effect produced, asked the guards to wait a little outside. Soon, Adelia Vita moved to the Imperial Palace. The contract between the girl and the Crown Prince was certified by law and magic. It included all the conditions that they had discussed the previous evening, and the prince invited the girl to take a look for herself, which she did. "Everything is in place," the girl said, having carefully examined everything. And she put her signature, thereby confirming the validity of the contract on her part. It turns out that she is now officially His Highness's fiancée. Lucian noticed that the girl was actually beaming with happiness, but he did not share her feelings, so he got up from his seat. And holding out his hand to the girl for a handshake, he said that he was looking forward to his cooperation with Miss Adelia Vita. Adelia froze in place. So the prince stood with his hand outstretched in front of the girl, frozen in surprise. Having come to her senses, Adelia asked if maybe he had a poisoned needle hidden in his sleeve, and he wanted to get rid of it secretly. But she warned that poisons had no effect on her. The prince knew this, as well as the fact that in order to kill a magician, you need a sacred sword, and not some kind of poisoned needle. Then why did he suddenly decide to show her respect? The girl asked. His attitude towards her changed a little. Yesterday the prince was not so kind. To which Lucian replied that yesterday she was just another noblewoman who loomed before his eyes, and today she is already his bride, and he must respect the future member of the imperial family, even if it is just a deal. These words impressed the girl very much. The prince values his family very much, so everything is logical. It turns out that now the crown prince considers her part of his family. Adelia held out her hand for the offered handshake. And she said that she was also looking forward to their cooperation, and she asked to omit the formalities. It would be enough to just call her by name. The girl would prefer to get rid of this surname as soon as possible. As you wish, Prince Lucian replied. Having sealed their agreement with a handshake, the young people looked into each other's eyes until the man offered to escort the girl to her chambers. But then there was the sound of hasty small steps. Lucian. The door opened without warning, and a pink, shining sun appeared in the room. The man immediately withdrew his hand, as did the girl, blushing slightly, as if they had been caught doing something indecent. And then he headed towards the little girl, leaving Adelia to wonder what it was. The girl looked at the little princess with bated breath. Only a second later did she pay attention to the unexpected guest, just as she did to her. Ariana seemed to have even forgotten about the existence of her beloved brother, and looked at the girl, spellbound. "Are you a fairy?" the little girl asked naively. "Is this really Princess Ariana?" Adelia was also fascinated by the baby. Small red eyes looked at the girl with fascination. Lucian wanted to greet his sister, but she stepped past him. "Who are you, Miss Fairy?" The little girl repeated her question, and the girl was touched by her and the fact that she had just been called a fairy. Adelia knew that Ariana was the main character and all, but how could she be so adorable? Is she really a girl, or really a piece of candy? "Hello, Your Highness." The girl smiled warmly, greeting the princess. "My name is Adelia Vida," she introduced herself, crouching down to be on the same level with the girl and taking her hand. She also said that the princess could just call her Adelia. The little girl was very happy about this, and she introduced herself as Ariana Floss Dekrak, adding that she was glad to meet Adelia. The girl was grateful to the little girl for her friendliness and expressed hope that they would become friends. But then a man's legs came between them. It was Lucian who was dissatisfied with their communication and noticed that his sister could not address his wife by just her first name. And although Adelia did not object to this, the prince insisted that it was against the rules of good etiquette. The girl slowly stood up. Really, it seemed as if electric discharges were rushing between the young people. But it seems that Her Highness was happy to call her simply Adelia. While the girl explained her arguments, the smile did not leave her lips. Still against the rules of etiquette, the prince was adamant. The little girl carefully pulled her brother's clothes. Was she really not allowed to call her by her name? The baby's eyes were wide open, and it seemed like she was about to cry. Lucian understood that he could not resist, but he tried to prove that Adelia would soon become the crown princess, and she, as a princess by right, must observe etiquette. "But I just want to make friends with Adelia." The little girl folded her arms in a pleading gesture and turned on all her charm. "Okay, whatever you say," the older brother gave in, which made the little girl very happy, and happily said that she had the best older brother in the world. Adelia quietly called the princess and said that on the way she stopped at Eileen's bakery and grabbed a dessert. Would she like to try it? Ariana immediately perked up. She heard that this is now the most popular place in the capital, and she happily agreed. The desserts from there were her favorite. The prince at that time was dissatisfied with their communication. The girl was just about to go to her chambers and invited the princess to accompany her. Then they could try them together. The little girl agreed with pleasure. And only one person in this room was darker than a cloud and did not share the general joy. Turning to him, Adelia asked why His Highness froze. Wasn't he going to show her her bedroom? Then she turned to the princess again, asking what dessert was her favorite, while the girl's voice became incomparably softer. Adelia herself loves strawberry croissants most of all. And Princess Ariana likes chocolate muffins, the ones with whipped cream on top. Lucian sighed heavily. He told his little sister to be careful around men, but apparently he should have warned him about women too. On the table was a 3-tiered platter with many different desserts. The crown prince sat in a chair, and Adelia was on the sofa with Ariana in her arms. "It's delicious," the girl asked the little girl, who was devouring her favorite dessert. Lucian silently watched their super cute communication and how the girl lured Ariana to her side with desserts. Adelia noticed the prince's cold gaze and the fact that he never tried the desserts. Then the girl pushed one of the pieces of cake towards him and offered to try it. The man immediately refused, citing the fact that he does not like sweets. "But these cakes are not too sweet and he should like it," the girl insisted. The princess also asked her brother to try it. "Everything is so delicious." "I'm not in the mood for dessert," the prince answered, and the girl was upset because they are really delicious. "It would be great if you tried with us, Lucian," the little girl remarked sadly. And the girl continued to smile, thereby also persuading His Highness to try. But the look was hard and literally ordered eat, and Lucian gave in again, deciding to try a piece. Having pricked it on a fork, he immediately sent a piece of cake into his mouth. As soon as the man put the first piece into his mouth, his eyes opened in surprise. Ariana immediately asked how it was. It was delicious, but the fact that the prince put piece after piece into his mouth spoke for itself. He finished the dessert quite quickly and, slightly blushing with pleasure, said restrainedly that it was not bad. Adelia and the baby cutely discussed that the prince was very modest, and they had never seen such an expression on his face, from which the man returned to his previous mood. He didn't expect them to get along so well. When they talked in the living room yesterday, Adelia was very cruel in her remarks about her own family, and it seemed to him that her family had caused her a lot of trauma, especially those terrible scars. Lucian was worried that she might become jealous of Ariana, who had known nothing but love in life. Fortunately, his fears were not justified, but could it be that she was just pretending? Soon all the desserts were eaten and the plates were empty. Ariana thought she had already eaten all the desserts from Eileen's bakery, but today she tried many that she had never even heard of before, to which Adelia noticed that she only brought new desserts, and whispered that Eileen was under her leadership so she could try all the new products from the bakery first. The fork fell out of the girl's hands. "What? Oh, you are the head of Eileen!" the little girl asked loudly and in surprise. "But this is a secret," the girl added, "and she hopes that the princess will not tell anyone," Ariana immediately confirmed, adding that she can trust her. "You will no longer hide the fact that you are a white magician?" the prince asked. Despite all the threats that rained down on her for 3 years, she never appeared in public. Patting the girl on the head, Adelia said that it was fashionable to trust Her Highness. In addition, the entire continent already knows about the rumors that Chief Eileen is a white magician, and this rumor is true. Lucian was interested in why she did not deny this. He suggested that in order to increase the value of the company, but the girl replied that she was already worth enough. She wants to achieve the commercialization of white magic stones in the Empire. And what she said next surprised the Crown Prince very much. Adelia Vita dreams that everyone, whether noble or commoner, can use them. The power contained in a white magic stone depends on its size, but even a small fragment retains its cleansing properties. If they start selling stones that are too small to have any commercial value at a bargain price, then the commoners will be much better off. Since her goal is to improve the lives of their people, then the Crown Prince has no reason to refuse her. However, commercialization of stones is only possible within the Empire. Of course, Adelia understood this. For the plan to work, no one should know that the white magician is the Crown Princess. Lucian assumed it was because of the nobles. Ariana was very surprised by this and generally understood little, but continued to listen carefully. The girl confirmed the prince's assumption. If the nobles admit that the Crown Princess creates white magic stones and sells them in the market, they will interfere and definitely ruin everything. At first, since this is the Crown Princess's business, they will conclude that this is also the business of the imperial family. And then, all the nobles who are allowed to invest will pounce on this opportunity. Lucian confirmed that nobles with the right to invest in imperial business would definitely not miss such an opportunity. And when sales of white magic stones grow enough, these same nobles will lay claim to them. They will say as investors, "We have the right to monopolize this business." The widespread use of white magic stones will keep the nobles in line. It will also improve the lives of all the inhabitants of the Empire, and Adelia will be grateful if the prince helps her. "What if the sale of stones goes beyond the Empire?" the man asked a logical question. The girl smiled mysteriously. That is why she transfers all trade rights to the imperial family. Lucian understood what she was hinting at. The issue of eliminating possible smuggling of stones now rests on the shoulders of the imperial family, and if the goods do leak across the border, then it is only their problem. So that's why Adelia so easily transferred the rights to trade. It finally dawned on the prince. She is smarter than he thought. As long as the imperial family controls sales within their own empire, they will be able to sell the stones to neighboring countries at a high price. Rising from his seat, Lucian suggested drawing up a contract as soon as possible. Then he went up to Adelia and took his sister, who had been next to the girl all this time, thereby surprising both. The prince wanted to take his sister to her room, but the baby really wanted to stay with Adelia, and therefore she vigorously escaped from her brother's embrace. To calm the girl down, Lucian sat down with her in his arms, but the baby continued to sulk. Then, remembering something, she turned to Adelia and asked if she was a magician. "Yes, I'm a special magician, not quite like the others," the girl answered, simultaneously doing magic. In the room, bright solar butterflies created from magic flapped their wings. One of them sat on Ariana's nose, and the girl noticed that she was warm and so beautiful. The girl even felt lighter in her heart and felt more cheerful, to which the girl noticed that this butterfly contained her magic, and she herself was a white magician who specialized in healing and protection. Ariana rushed again to Adelia, and Lucian did not have time to stop her, although he tried. While the girl admired how incredible she was, Adelia promised to create a magical artifact and give it to the princess. Then he will always bring her joy and protect her if something happens. Maybe make a ring, the girl thought, but rejected this option, since for a child her age, the ring would be inconvenient. Then maybe a necklace with red stones, just like the princess's eyes, and even Tolya's hair decoration will be perfect. The prince watched with surprise the interaction between Adelia and the princess, as if they existed in their own separate world. A lot of time had passed, and it was time for the little princess to rest. The baby wearily said goodbye to Adelia, and the maid took the princess to her room. The girl also said a sweet goodbye and wished her a good rest. When the door closed behind the princess, Adelia felt uncomfortable. The prince looked at her intently and was interested in why she liked Ariana so much, even though she is a cutie. But where does so much unconditional love come from for a child whom you see for the first time? The girl wondered what she could say. Princess Ariana has always been her only hope. They finally met. How could she not love her? Seeing her in person, Adelia was only more convinced of this, as well as the fact that she would always be on her side, no matter what the princess did. But she couldn't tell the truth, so she replied that she couldn't help but like such a charming child. Lucian still found it suspicious, and warned that if she had any ulterior motives or hurt Ariana, she would be in trouble. She asked him not to worry about this. He would still be jealous of how well they got along. So the prince can stop his baseless worries about her relationship with the princess, and finally tell her what she should beware of regarding the imperial family. Adelia asked if there were rooms in the palace where she should not go, but was told that she was allowed to go where the crown princess was allowed to be. She would always be followed by one of the guards, so she shouldn't do anything stupid. And the girl was surprised that it turns out that she would be watched and not protected. However, white magic sparkled in the girl's hands. Why does a white magician need protection at all? The crown prince's fiancé can't walk around with just her maid, Lucian said. The girl was outraged that he did not even try to deny that he would watch her, to which the prince noted that the presence of a guard was required by etiquette. Besides, in the palace, he could not finish, because a strange sound was heard outside the door, as if a small elephant was running. Adelia also heard strange sounds and was very surprised. It seemed as if someone was running along the corridor of the palace. The sounds became louder, and Lucian was already beginning to guess who was making them. Lucian, the boy, loudly and unceremoniously burst into the room. "You're really getting married." He experienced very extensive emotions, and besides, he was out of breath from running. Not only did Lawrence, who was the emperor's youngest son, run through the corridors and make noise, but he also burst in without knocking while Lucian was receiving guests. The older brother's tone scared the younger brother, and the man continued to reprimand the boy, noting that he needed more etiquette lessons because he was acting like a child, even worse than Ariana. Stuttering, the boy tried to explain that he was just in such shock. Adelia at that moment decided to make her presence known and greeted His Highness, causing Lawrence to look at her contemptuously. The girl said that she was honored to meet him and introduced herself. Lawrence finally noticed that they were not alone. The child, who had been almost crying before, suddenly asked what this bag of bones was. "She's not even that beautiful. There's nothing special about her," he snorted. His brother wasn't going to marry her. What did this little thing just say? Adelia mentally indignant. "I don't like her," Lawrence said categorically, crossing his arms over his chest. Lucian sternly asked where his manners had gone and demanded that he show respect to the girl and say hello as expected, which made him scared again. The boy blushed slightly, realizing that he had acted ugly. "Hello?" he said, without looking at the girl and bowing slightly. "Hello, Your Highness," Adelia answered with all possible delicacy while straightening her hair. Lawrence seemed to have an epiphany, because if you look closely, she is a little beautiful. But he immediately tried to get rid of the unexpected thought, for which he vigorously shook his head. Remembering why he was here, the little prince turned to his brother again, indignant that he had experienced an incredible shock when, upon returning from the hunt, he was immediately informed that he was getting married. Also on her, he unceremoniously pointed his finger at the girl standing next to her, who was trying with all her might to maintain outward friendliness. But the next second, he realized that he was again acting inappropriately for his status. He asked more calmly how his brother could make such a decision without him, to which Lucian replied that he did not need his younger brother's opinion about his own marriage. "Didn't you listen to what your father was saying?" asked the crown prince, which made the boy surprised. Lucian indignantly suggested that Lawrence had come here immediately after the hunt, without even greeting his father, and the boy confirmed this. Watching how the younger brother asked the older brother what his father should have told him, Adelia remembered that his nickname was Imperial Slow-Witted. It is not known who came up with it, but it suits him. "This woman is a white magician," Lucian finally said, and the boy turned his head towards the guest in bewilderment. And only after a couple of moments did the meaning of what his brother said reach him. "This ugly thing is a white magician!" he shouted, again forgetting about decency, pointing his finger at the girl while she tried to remain calm and not pay attention to this rude little thing. It was indeed very slow to reach Prince Lawrence, but when he finally realized this, admiration appeared in his gaze. Adelia confirmed this, while noting that Ariana had the same reaction and they are indeed close relatives. "You probably want some proof," the girl asked, working magic. Lawrence was engulfed in a warm golden glow, from which he was literally mesmerized. The small scratch on the boy's cheek healed immediately, as did the wound on the back of his hand. He no longer felt tired and all his wounds had healed, which means that this is white magic. It is different from holy powers and ordinary magic. But he still had scars. Lawrence pulled up the sleeve of his shirt, exposing his arm to the elbow. Could white magic really only heal small wounds, he asked? Adelia explained that this is not the case. White magic sometimes leaves scars because it does not work like healing. She thought that it would be better for the priest to look at the large wounds, so she left the scars. But she would not leave scars on him for life, because His Highness is a very important person. "An important man," the boy repeated with surprise. "Okay," Lawrence agreed. "She is suitable, and his brother deserves such a skilled wife," the little prince agreed. And he asked what her name was, to which the girl introduced herself and asked to call her simply by her name. "You don't mind, Your Highness." She turned to the crown prince, and he realized that it was useless to argue, and why ask him at all if she didn't care? In this case, Lawrence wanted to say hello again, but this time in a proper way, bowing slightly, he introduced himself as Lawrence Rivera Decrac. The girl also formally introduced herself and extended her hand to him for a handshake, still smiling and expressing the hope that they would get along. Finally, evening came, and Adelia tiredly lounged on her bed, thinking that everything was really different in the palace. But she is glad that she got here so quickly, because this way she will get along with the residents of the palace faster. Especially with these cuties Lawrence and Ariana. How charming they can be. The girl was touched, remembering recent events. But it's hard to believe that all of them, including the emperor and the crown prince, are from the same family. Still, Prince Lucian showed her some semblance of respect. And this awkward scene, when they looked into each other's eyes for a long time, something stirred in the girl's soul. She doesn't think they are bad people. There was a knock on the door, and Adelia asked who was there. "Chief Maid of Honor, can I come in for a minute?" came a voice from behind the door. And after permission, a modest woman entered the room. After greeting the mistress, she introduced herself as Joanna. She was appointed as my lady's confidant, so she was ordered to make sure that the mistress was comfortable, and also asked to let her know if anything was needed. Adelia noticed that she didn't need anything. It was already very cozy here. "And she will leave the rest in the capable hands of Lady Joanna." The girl finished smiling. Bowing, the maid said that there was no need for formalities because she was the future crown princess. But Adelia knew that Lady Joanna was the crown prince's nanny, and everyone who was important to His Highness was also important to her. The face of the main maid of honor softened slightly when the girl asked to be allowed to show her respect in this way. Adelia knew Lady Joanna's fate from the book. She was brought to the palace by the Empress, and it would be beneficial to maintain a good relationship with her. In addition, in the book, Joanna lost her son due to illness, and immediately after that she died under the wheels of a carriage. She is a minor character with a tragic fate. After her death, the crown prince lost his dear friend, and Nanny rolled into one, and I never recovered from it. The culprits behind her death were nobles who opposed the crown prince, but he never found out about it. If you think about it, this story is not touching at all. It is tragic. "Milady, are you okay?" Joanna asked, puzzled by the girl's long silence, and Adelia emerged from her thoughts, making excuses that she was simply tired. His Highness mentioned that he would send her a maid, but she never saw her. Joanna explained that the maids had come with her and suggested that they look at their profiles first. Adelia took into hand the personal affairs of the 3 maids assigned to her by His Highness. The maid of honor smiled and noticed that my lady was very important to His Majesty. He was careful in choosing his maids, but the girl herself strongly doubted it. Barry is the knight's eldest daughter. Anna is the second daughter of the Viscount. Adelia was delayed on the 3rd case. Lily Volt is the daughter of Count Volt. Why would the daughter of a nobleman, a count, become a maid of the crown princess? Oh, this is so obvious, the girl thought in anticipation. Most ladies-in-waiting are daughters of viscounts or other nobles of lower rank. There are no adult women in the imperial family now, so there is no one to attend high society meetings, which means that the daughter of a nobleman with a title higher than viscount does not make sense to become a maid of honor. The only reason why such a girl would want to serve someone from the imperial family was because of some kind of political plan. Most likely, she aims to become a crown princess or wants to become the wife of another prince. If the former is true, then obviously Lily is trying to hurt her. They are both daughters of earls, so she probably thinks she has a chance. Miss Lily volunteered to be a maid of honor herself, the girl asked Joanna, and she replied that it was so, and she should not worry about it. She will soon become crown princess. Ladies of her status often have noble ladies-in-waiting. Joanna asked if she should now invite the ladies-in-waiting to my ladies' chambers, to which she received an affirmative answer. One by one, the 3 girls entered Adelia's chambers. Joanna introduced the girls by